Divers and people who spend a lot of time underwater, what's the creepiest, most unexplainable thing you've seen while in the depths? I once went diving in Port Elizabeth, South Africa, where it is quite popular to see sharks. We begin diving and we are quite far from the shore. There's a cool looking structure under us. We swim towards it to get a closer look and I just start getting this cold feeling running through my body, and that's when a shark appeared and I physically shat myself from fear. At least you didn't mentally shit yourself. Not a diver, but I was on a boat just outside Plet when we encountered a group of seals out in the open water. I threw on a snorkel and hopped in the water while the seals were being curious around the boat. After a couple of minutes, the seals suddenly decided to all leave the area almost instantly. I had seen a copper shark earlier in the distance, but seals aren't afraid of something small like copper sharks. It took me about 3 seconds of floating alone to realize that this was one of the dumbest things I had ever done. The swim back to the boat was a very long 10 meters. Neither creepy nor inexplicable, but once on a night dive I had a seal tag along and take advantage of my flashlight to do some night hunting. It was adorable and the poor fish didn't stand a chance. Also, because the sea sausage was completely comfortable and taking advantage of me, they were all up in my business a bunch, which was awkward because as a rule you're not supposed to touch the animals for their safety and yours. In this case I finally decided it was totally okay to push their fat ass when they were in my way. I'll forever call seals a sea sausage because of this. I've done a number of dives, and the strangest thing I ever saw was a large deep freezer with a heavy industrial chain wrapped around multiple times with about 5 cinder blocks attached. It was very rusted and the deep freezer itself had to have been 30 plus years old, probably more. This was about 90 feet deep just off Vancouver Island, Canada. The situation gave myself and the other divers the newbie-jeebies. Logged the GPS and depth coordinates and notified the police. We were able to find out what was inside, since one of the divers had friends with local police. 10 porcelain dolls. Edit, wording and typos. That's almost worse than finding out it was a body inside. Must be haunted. Nice work. You have unleashed them from the watery prison that was protecting us all from their wrath. The story isn't really mine, but from a friend of mine who does night dives. Here on the Brazilian coast there's a fish that resembles a shark, but it's considerably smaller, called cacao. You have to hunt these fuckers at night because they're sort of nasty in the open, but easier to shoot when in the coves. So, my friend, let's call him Regis, is about 1 kilometer from the coast, diving near a reef. This thing is massive and you have to go really deep to get to the slope with the coves. He is descending with a partner using cylinders for oxygen and armed with a harpoon gun, the kind that shoots the harpoon and is reloadable, which is kinda heavy, making movement a tad slower. It's super dark at the deep during the night and much light will alert the fish they're hunting, so they have to use flashlights that are weaker. Regis said he had a feeling while descending, everything was off, the smaller fish were absent, there were no turtles, water was murkier than the usual. His partner stays back with the flashlight and he goes closer to the reef. Regis searches for the coves but can't find any with the cacao he wants, so it takes kinda long. At a certain point, he feels a shift in the water, like something big is swimming near him, just as the weak light from his partner waves frantically and goes off. He doesn't know what to expect and goes on flight or fight mode, except he can't ascend too fast. He then tries to stay at the same level, but he has his back to the reef now. Then cocks the gun with the harpoon and waits. Waits and waits, but he doesn't see anything in the murky night seawater, not even his partner's light. That had to mean one of two things, either his partner went out of batteries, or he saw something and didn't want to attract its attention. Regis finally decides to start ascending very slowly. The weird feeling he had got worse and turned into chills. As he's going up, he feels that same shift again and does not hesitate to harpoon whatever it was, but missed. He said he never saw something so big underwater and it swam fast. As Regis couldn't see much in the dark, he couldn't make out a proper shape, but saw that the thing went deeper near the reef. So he tries to go up as fast as possible and makes out to the boat, where his partner helped him up. Turns out his partner warned him about it with the light, because he saw something abnormally big swimming in a dangerous distance, but couldn't get to him, because he felt watched by the thing. They both call it the blackfish, since they couldn't really see what it was. It's said to be as big as a man, about 1.7 meters. Regis lost the harpoon in the end. Both of them still dive at night. It's a no-no for me, though. Also, always dive in groups, guys. If something happens, you gotta have someone to have your back. You never know. Edit, phrasing. I once saw someone's escaped pet iguana swimming underwater at my local lake as a kid that scared the shit out of me. Does that count? People dive in Flathead Lake near where I live. It is a dark, murky lake. I have seen some large fish, like 5 feet long, around the edges of the lake. Divers have told me the really big fish, around 8 or 10 feet long, are smart and will not approach you to close but will stay floating in the murk, just barely visible as ominous moving shadows. Edit, words, grammar. 10 feet long is 3 meters, that's a really, really big fish. Like shark big. Not discounting what they're saying, but what freshwater lake species grow to 8 to 10 feet? When I was a kid swimming in the lake at summer camp, I dove underwater and I swear I saw someone in scuba gear hiding underneath the dock watching us. I told the lifeguard, but he wasn't able to find anyone. What if there was someone there and they saw that you saw them and so they swam away to avoid getting caught by the lifeguard? I'm a commercial diver, and was once on a job cleaning a potable water reservoir. I'd been in other reservoirs before, but this was by far the biggest, at 40 by 80 meters. To get in you had to open a hatch in the ground, the whole reservoir was underground, and climb down a ladder. The hatch was in a corner, so when you were in the far corner of the reservoir, it was completely pitch black, and you just have to hope your light doesn't go out. I was about halfway through a 3-hour dive when the batteries in my torch started going flat. I watched the beam get narrower and dimmer until it cut out completely. It's not a huge problem if you lose light, as you can just follow your umbilical back to the hatch. Just as I started walking back, some obnoxiously loud banging started somewhere in the reservoir. I was the only diver in there, so it both confused and scared the shit out of me. Needless to say, I ran back to the hatch as fast as I could. I ended up getting my torch changed out and doing another hour in the water, but didn't hear the noise again. I still have no idea what it was, but the combination of my torch going out and loud banging coming from somewhere gave me a hell of a fright. You went back in? Yeah, that's gonna be a no from me, dog. Hushed face. Are you sure commercial diving is the best job for you? It seems like it'd be hard to swim with such massive balls. Oh, his light is going out, I better bang on the ladder so he knows where it is. I dropped my goggles and was trying to reach down in the river and grab it, but I pulled out a sheep skull by its sockets. Wasn't as creepy in hindsight, but 10-year-old me was scared. Not a diver, but heard from old divers that worked for the Corps of Engineers, that there's some huge catfish around the bottom of the dams. Like the size of vans. My granddad used to be on a crew that dove in the Zambezi River Dam in Zimbabwe was Rhodesia, and he said there was 1 or 2 catfish in there that were so big they were eating some of the African workers semi-regularly and would wait underneath the dam where they were doing repairs. It got so bad and the proved so difficult to hunt that they ended up just pouring concrete into all the little caves underneath to either trap them or force them to move away. My story is not very exciting, but anyway. First time diving on Australia and first time diving with sharks. We start descending and the guide is at the front of the group looking for the sharkies. I'm at the back of the group. Suddenly I turn my head left and there's this 6-foot MF about a foot or 2 from my face. He just swam peacefully past the group. It was a bit creepy but lots of fun. You can dive in man-made lakes and check out what's left of old flooded homes and communities. It's pretty dark and spooky down there no matter what, especially when you think of all the big fish swimming around that are barely silhouettes until they're close. My buddy likes to dive in lakes. He said the creepiest thing, by far, is finding cemeteries 100 feet plus beneath the water in the dark, eerie quiet. I used to do a lot of night dives hunting for lobster off the coast of California. We'd start at 9 or 10 at night, so everything is obviously pitch black besides where we were pointing our lights. Every so often I'd get this unshakable feeling that something big was watching or following me. Sometimes I could quiet that part of my brain and continue with the dive. Other times I couldn't shake the feeling and would end the dive after a few minutes. It's a hard feeling to describe, but I guess I'd compare it to being in a haunted house but 50 feet underwater in complete darkness. My mom used to dive a lot, Florida, Caribbean though, and she told me she used to get the same feeling on night dives sometimes. Not sure if it helps you or not, but she said on multiple occasions it turned out to be a barracuda hanging out over her shoulder using her light to see. Not that creepy, but during night dives I saw 3 different octopi. The adult one moved along the coral and changed colors to camouflage, and the baby ones were bright neon colors. They have the best camouflage out of any animal, truly a majestic beast. The fact that no one has a story yet frustrates me, because this is the first decent AskReddit thing I've seen all day.